All right, we're live. Rock and roll. Today's topic: who's happier, employees or entrepreneurs? Which E? Let me know in the chat. Are you an employee? Are you an entrepreneur? Have you always been employed and are trying to be an entrepreneur? Have you been an entrepreneur and now you're employed? Where are you on that spectrum? I'll give you a little story about where I've been. I love plugging some stuff into ChatGPT. I don't know if you've ever played with it. I think it's freaking awesome. Um, and I was just having this conversation with somebody, and it's fascinating because in my life, when I really started to think about it, I think some of the people that I have experienced who have the overall greatest level of satisfaction seem to be employees. Um, and I think that entrepreneurs are and can be happier in certain ways, but I also think the people who reach the stage of entrepreneurship where they're potentially have a level of ease and satisfaction and happiness, a lot have a difficult time getting to, because to get there is so unpredictable, so uncertain, and so at times difficult, and so at times filled with risk. And there's so many unknowns that a lot of people quit or give up before they ever get to the place where the control, the freedom, the financial freedom, and all of that is at a place where they feel really good. And there's a guy named Dan Sullivan. I did a video on this not too long ago where he's been coaching basically entrepreneurs for the last 30 years. He's like, the only common factor that he sees in entrepreneurs, it's not personality. I mean, there's a lot of different factors at play, but one of the biggest things is they value freedom more than they value security. Because if you value security more than you value freedom, then you're going to have a really difficult time being an entrepreneur. Because the main people who have what some could argue an illusion of security in employment, because you can have consistency in income as an employee somewhere, but they could let you go tomorrow. I mean, some people listening to this could very well be that person who is like, I've been at my job for 25 years, and then they let me know that they're firing me, or they're letting me go, and I have 2 weeks notice. And depending on how good you were with money, that could be like, thank God, this is great. Now I'm going to get to do whatever. Or you might be scared to death because you don't have any kind of air quote backup plans, and you've maybe liked your job and everything was good, and you thought, okay, I love this, but you weren't really great with money, and now it's like, what am I going to do? Some of you, that will cause you to start your entrepreneurial endeavor that you've been thinking about. But I think it's an interesting conversation because I've seen a lot of people recently, and I almost did it a couple years ago. Now, I have not been an employee since I was about 18, 19 years old. I have been technically self-employed or an entrepreneur. Since that time, I was at Jimmy John's. I had a paper out, and I worked at a beer distributor. And I always talk about the story. I didn't get a quarter raise, and there's a little bit more to it, but I was just like so fed up, and I quit. And I actually helped my mom clean houses for the first roughly 12 months that I started my business. But I lived in my parents' basement, and no debt, no bills, no responsibility. And this is back in like 2005, 2006. And then what was happening is I was making more in a few days than even a few weeks in my production company versus helping my mom clean houses. And that's when I decided to quit. And then I never looked back until basically 2021, when I almost became an employee. And I didn't. And it really was the straw that broke the camel's back. I was very exhausted from all the testing, trying, tweaking, this and thatting, and all these different things that I had done, and marketing and advertising. And I always use, I don't know why I use beauty salons, but people who are like cutting hair, and then they're like, well, I can do this better than the person, and then they go to start their own business cutting hair, but they may not even get to really cut as much hair. Now you got to manage all these people and schedules. And for some people, that's a great natural next step, and for other people, that is an absolute nightmare. And that's the thing about entrepreneurship is depending on how you're wired and what you want to do and what you want to accomplish. And, I talk a lot about ADHD and neurodivergence and people being passionate and, autism and different things that are going on with people that, depending on where you sit, can depend on how much more difficult being an entrepreneur and having all these things. Like when you're employed somewhere, depending on your employment, you got a few things you got to do. There's usually other people doing other things and you get to do your thing. Whereas when and you can just show up too and get paid. Whereas as an entrepreneur or a person who's self-employed, just kind of waking up and going through the motions, if you've tried that or are doing it, you don't just get paid for waking up and going through the motions, right? And so anyways, the thing that popped out on ChatGPT, there have been various studies conducted to compare the happiness levels of employees and entrepreneurs. While the results can vary depending on specific study and context, I can provide you with some insights based on available research. So job satisfaction. Several studies have found that entrepreneurs tend to report higher levels of job satisfaction compared to employees. This may be attributed to the autonomy and control they have over their work, the opportunity to pursue their passion, and the potential for financial rewards resulting from their own efforts, which is true, right? As a entrepreneur, you get to typically call the shots, right? You get to have a lot of control, and you're typically going to be able to have more freedom than a person who is employed. But I think of my neighbors right now, and one's a nurse, one's a teacher. They hang out with their friends, have parties and barbecues all the time, more than I do. I feel like I'm 80 years old. Me and my wife, like we're not super. I've never been a party or anything. Pretty simple, but no judgment. But like we don't have any problems with them. But like they always seem to be having fun. From what conversation I had, they seem to be happy. They have their camper. They go camping. They get the 3 months off. The wife does it, but the husband, is off all summer and winter, but she'll still get time off and everything. And they just seem like they're pretty happy. And I feel like the most tortured people are entrepreneurs and artists. Like, a guy I was just talking to, he was doing the entrepreneur thing, and then things just were struggling, and had a kid, and he had to get a job. And he's like, there's a lot I love about it, and there's a lot I hate. And that's what caused me to do this, because I feel like that's the majority. Like I hear that less with employees. I think there's so much out there where people think they can do more, and they got their side hustles, and they maybe dream for a little bit more freedom and autonomy and to travel and things. But I feel I hear that less with employees versus people who are entrepreneurial. I just feel an artist, they're so tortured inside, because it's like, there's never this situation where it's all awesome. And there's a quote, there's this lady, and I don't know what her name is, Brooke Castillo, I think. She has this 50-50 thing. There's all these different rules and all these things. Everybody's making up something. But she says, I love to be 50-50. 50% awesome and a 50% mess. It's beautiful. I love the Pareto rule or law, the 80-20 rule. But it's like, all of it's just kind of made up. But I do think that this one I resonate a lot with, because at times, as much as I want to act like, oh, it's all amazing, be an entrepreneur. Oh yeah, everybody needs to be an entrepreneur. I used to do that to my wife. Like before she was my wife, I really wanted her to be an entrepreneur. Now in certain ways she has her own business and all this stuff. But it's just like, I used to try to push her. I used to try to push a lot more people into it. And although I really, for me, because of how much time I've spent self-employed, the pros for me definitely outweigh the cons. But I won't sit here and act like it's all rainbows, butterflies, and unicorns, and it's just great, and I just love it all, and it's, oh my gosh. And that's what I want to continue to get on here and, continue to do these. If you're new here, welcome. These are mind tune-up times with the air quote mind mechanic, but at the same time, like, I'm wanting to share perspectives and thoughts that I think I've shared a lot in private. I don't think are talked about enough in public. I think everybody's got some kind of agenda trying to ultimately sell you something. And so everything around it is to get you to buy into that thing. And I'm selling coaching. I absolutely do. I love it. I'm great at it. And, but I'm like a brain surgeon. Brain surgeon can't do his own brain surgery. So I'm not perfect. I'm human. I make mistakes. My wife and I can still, have fights. I get sad. I get angry. I get frustrated. But I spend a lot of time overall now at peace because I have done a lot of inner work. And how many of you, like, if you have debt right now and that debt causes you a lot of stress, what would be the number one way that you would eliminate the stress? Since we're still new here, I won't have like hundreds of comments coming in, so just let it be. But please leave comments. I love the interaction. I should be able to see it. I'm streaming in multiple places. I should be able to see your comments in the software I'm using, StreamYard. But what I find with a lot of people is they're attempting to make more and more money and change things outside of them to feel something inside of them. And I know I've done that plenty in my life, right? So this aspect that if you have debt and it causes you stress, to get rid of the stress, you've got to get rid of the debt. But I know people who have a lot of money, and a lot of money's relative, but let's just call it that if they didn't earn any money, and they're still a very working age, they're in their 30s, but if they didn't earn any money, they could survive how they currently survive for a decade plus, and yet they live like they're going to run out of money tomorrow. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm not here to judge, but it's an interesting thing. Like I would say the person has levels of anxiety and stress because they still have not reached some metaphoric amount of money that will eliminate no debt. This person doesn't have any debt, but there's this like innate anxiety that they're going to run out of money. And even though the likelihood that this person is an able-bodied person and they're going to go for a decade plus and not make any money is highly unlikely. And so I've done this work where it doesn't mean I live without stress, and I again don't have any emotion. I most definitely do. But I have continued to work on myself, and this is the work I do with my clients, to reach levels where you might not be making any more money, but you are happy, right? And you are satisfied and you're confident and you have hope for the future. You have so many people that I've worked with who, right now they're making misery money. And at times I don't even help them make any more money, but they're making happy money. They're making fun money. They're enjoying what they're doing. And sometimes that's a perspective shift, and sometimes that's an entire career shift. But I do believe it's possible to fill a lot of these voids we feel on the inside, and we're achieving and going after things because we think that the buying of things or the achieving of things or the reaching of certain levels will help us feel a certain way. But what I find is that once people are beyond basic needs being met, they have housing, they have shelter, they have food, they have internet. Anybody listening to this likely has an internet, probably an iPhone or an Android, probably a $500 to $1,000 phone. Maybe you're making payments on it, but nonetheless, it's not a $20 flip phone that you have because you couldn't be watching it on that. But beyond that, like a lot of us, we're just up leveling the same thing. We're getting a nicer home and a nicer car and nicer gear. But like I've seen from my filmmaking background, I mean, there are people with $40,000 cameras that can't make $40,000, and there's people with $4,000 cameras who are making $400,000. I literally just heard what's his Ryan Tedder is his name? I don't even know his name. He's the lead singer in the One Republic, and he got asked, by this guy, what advice would you give? And he says, effort and hard work 100% of the time trumps talent. And he's like, doesn't mean you shouldn't have any talent. But at the same time, there's a lot which I have run into. The amount of talented people that I have seen who are trying to do their own thing entrepreneurially. I am messing up that word right now, but they're trying to be an entrepreneur. And it is killing their mental health. Absolutely killing it. And they are hardly making any money, but yet they are more talented than people doing 10 times as much money as them. And this is why my hat right here, get that other hand over there. Right? These three symbols to me really stand for a holistic approach to what I want to continue to bring an awareness in my own mind, but those that I work with, that I think that there's a lot out there that just goes after tactics and technical. Then there's a lot that just is all the mindset game, and there's no, talent, tactics or technical talked about ever. And then the other one for me is medical. And I think that gets disregarded a lot, that sometimes people literally are having a medical condition or a medical issue, that even though they have the right mindset, they have the right attitude, they have drive, ambition, they have talent and skills, the medical condition that may be unknown right now is affecting them from having the success that they'll have if they could figure that out. I just had somebody the other day tell me they took B vitamins and it eliminated a lot of their anxiety they had. Will that work for everybody? I'm not here to say it will. I'm not a medical professional. But I did have somebody that had sleep apnea. And until they found out they had sleep apnea, until they got the sleep apnea machine, they were really struggling. And when they got that, things really took off for them. And it was really incredible to see, because it's like the talent was there, the drive was there, the ambition was there, the skills were there, the mindset, the attitude was there, but they were exhausted all the time. And it wasn't about getting more sleep. Like, you could give all these different things to do, but at times, of course, most people, especially business coaches and mindset coaches, they're not medical professionals. So they're not going to necessarily be able to recognize some of these things that might actually be medical issues. And so for me, I continue to try to gain more and more awareness of medical things, not to like diagnose people or to know for certain. The thing I'm studying the most is around, neurodivergence and ADHD. I got brain scans in the last 12 months, and, some people think it's a joke. Some people don't, much like anything else. But I want to continue to have awareness, because there have been clients I've had that once I unlocked that for them, it was a game changer. It was an absolute game changer, but I didn't have awareness. And so I want to continue to raise the people who listen to this. I want to continue to not be like, online courses may be a millionaire, so therefore you should be an online course creator. It's like, just because I can, or just because I did, doesn't mean you should. Maybe you could, maybe you should, but I'm not here to tell you that. Right. And there's so much out there where people speak with such conviction that this is the way, this is the diet, this is the method, this is the marketing, this is this. And you'll find proof that it works. You'll find proof that it doesn't work. So work-life balance. Some research suggests that employees have better work-life balance compared to entrepreneurs. Being an entrepreneur often involves working long hours, high stress levels, and a constant need to manage multiple aspects of the business. Employees, on the other hand, may have more defined working hours and less responsibility outside of their job. And that, I would say, is a big thing, right? Because for a person to get to the point as an entrepreneur where they have a high level of work-life balance, if you will, depending on what that means to you, and air quote, less responsibility, and then all these people helping them, like, most entrepreneurs, especially if they start hiring people, have a hell of a lot more responsibility. So that's it. That's definitely something I see, that, a lot of people will trade working 40 hours a week for somebody else to work 100 hours a week for themselves. And at times not even earn the money that they were earning if they were employed. And some people, that actually makes them happier, because again, the control and autonomy that they have from that. And for other people who, again, value security more than they value freedom, that's a mental health killer. Right? Like, the amount of stress and responsibility for them to not just be a great editor or be a great writer or be a great shooter is very stressful, and so financial security. The relationship between happiness and financial security is complex. While entrepreneurship has the potential for greater financial rewards, it also involves typically more financial risk and uncertainty, especially in the early stages. Employees generally have more stable income and benefits, which can contribute to the sense of security and peace of mind, right? And so even though you could be at the same job for 10 years, everything's rock and roll, everything's amazing, and then tomorrow they let you go. Whereas, or the harder you work, not necessarily the more you make either. Let me see here. I want to pull open an article. Job find this. Is this it? I think this is the one. So I just want to read you something real quick here that is interesting. Derek Sivers, I don't know if you've heard of him. This is from his book, Hell Yeah or Hell No. He had CD Baby. And he has an article titled, How to Do What You Love and Make Good Money. So it says, people with a well-paying job ask my advice because they want to quit and become full-time artists. But full-time artists ask my advice because they're finding it impossible to make money. So let's define art as anything you do for expression, even just if it's blogging, writing, whatever, video, singing. So for both of them, I prescribe the lifestyle of the happiest people I know. Have a well-paying job. Seriously, pursue your art for love, not money. Now, I'll jam on this in just a second, but because again, this is one person's opinion. This is not a right or wrong way. When I talk to people, I try to talk in such a way to kind of create triggers. Those triggers either piss you off and make you want to prove somebody wrong. They resonate deeply, and it's like, that's something I was thinking. This is what I'm going to do. I mean, I've had people that I was working with, and I've checked in. I like to check in because I think there's a lot where we can help get somebody a result. We can help somebody have a breakthrough, and we do that in a moment or in a minute, and then their life like falls apart after you don't talk for 6 months or 2 years. So this particular person was just really struggling to start a wedding business. Super talented. Like, I would hire this guy and be proud to deliver the videos that he was creating, but his mental health was in shambles, and he ended up getting a job in the wedding space for a company that needed help editing and shooting. But all he really had to do was show up and edit and shoot. Now, ultimately, for the time he would work doing that, relative to the time he would work if he did it for himself, for the part that was the shooting and editing, he's going to make substantially less money. Yes. But he's got married. Every time I check in, he says it's the best decision that he ever made. And so, and he's getting to do what he loves. Now, granted, if he had some jobs prior to that and they had nothing to do with what he loved. So it's a fine line, that ability to find a great employer that can still give you a level of autonomy and freedom and creativity. It's out there. So let's look at the ingredients of this plan. First, balance. You've heard about balancing heart and mind, or right brain, left brain, or whatever you want to call it. We all have a need for stability and adventure, certainty and uncertainty, money and expression. If you have too much stability, you get bored. If you don't have enough stability, you panic. So keep the balance. Do something for love and something for money. Don't try to make one thing satisfy your entire life. Each half of your life becomes a remedy for the other. You get paid stability for part of your day, and then you need creative time for expression. So push yourself creatively, expose your vulnerable art to the public, feel the frustration of rejection and apathy, and then long for some stability again. Each half is a remedy for the other. About the job, be smart and choose something that pays well with a solid future. Look for statistics in your area about what pays the best when factoring in the required training. You'll probably need to study for a few years to build up the rare skills that are well rewarded. This is a head choice, not a heart choice, since you're not trying to make your job your entire life. About your art, pursue it seriously. Take lessons, make weekly progress, keep improving, even if you've been doing it for decades. If you don't progress and challenge yourself creatively, it won't satisfy the balance. Release and sell your work like a professional. Find some fans, let them pay you. But your attitude is different than someone who needs money. That is a key factor that I see over and over and over again. That sometimes one of the killers for business is this need. I need you as a client right now. I almost don't even care if you need what I'm offering. I'm going to convince you, or a lot that's out there in the marketplace, I'm going to close you. And I will do whatever it takes. And no matter what you say to me, I will continue to give you, I will continue to be able to say things that are rebuttals that are going to get you to go, okay, yeah, and bust out your credit card on the spot and give me money. Right? Whether you really need this or not is irrelevant, but I need it more than you probably need the money. And whether my thing will actually help you is also irrelevant, but I need to pay my bills. And so therefore I need you to pay me money. And I don't care about anything else. And that gives a lot of people a bad taste in more ways than one, especially if you don't want to be that. Some people don't have a problem with being that person or doing that. But I find there's far more people who have a real problem with doing that. So you need to worry about, you don't need to worry if something doesn't sell. You don't need to please the marketplace. You don't need to compromise your art or your value based on others' opinions. You're doing this for yourself, art for its own sake, and you're releasing it because it's one of the most rewarding parts, important for self-identity, and gives you good feedback on how to improve. Your main obstacle to this amazing life will be self-control. You'll need good time management to stop addictions like social media and video watching. Make your art your main relaxing activity. You'll need good mind management to not think of your job after you leave the office. Most full-time artists I know only spend an hour or two a day actually doing their art anyways. The rest is spent on the boring work that comes with trying to make it a full-time career. So skip the art career and just do the art. That's my advice for a rewarding life. I've met thousands of people over the last 20 years, many of them full-time musicians, many of them not. But some of the happiest people I know are the ones who have this balance. Don't expect your job to fulfill all your emotional needs. Don't taint something you love with the need to make money from it. Don't try to make your job your whole life. Don't try to make your art your sole income. Let each be what it is and put the extra effort to balance the two for a great life. Now, is this the perfect recipe? I'm going to throw this article in the chat. It should pop its way over there. It is sive.rs, sive.rs/balance. If you want to read that from Derek Sivers, I'll put it up on the screen there as well. So, it's really, really, really fascinating to me. And again, is this the perfect prescription? Is having a job and doing your art not for money the best thing? Not necessarily. Some have a burn the bridges mentality. For me, I have what I'm doing right now and coaching people, no matter what happens in my life financially with it, the ups and downs, the lefts and rights, the this and that's, I can't not do this. Like this is my art. Speaking, coaching, encouraging, motivating, inspiring, helping give people perspective, helping people shift their minds, helping people find inner peace, helping people find clarity and confidence. I absolutely find an immense amount of satisfaction from this work. And so it's the same thing I did that helped my video production company take off. There were so many people telling me that I shouldn't do certain things that I loved to do. And even when I couldn't convince my couples to pay me to do this one particular thing I did called a same-day edit, I did it anyways. And it was one of the greatest decisions I made because when I did it, it brought other people great joy. And when I did it, it brought me great joy. And it ended up becoming the thing that I got paid primarily to do. But it was only in the doing it over and over and over again, even when people wouldn't pay me, even when people didn't understand it, even at times when people supposedly didn't want it. And most people, once they experienced it, they loved it. And so for me, this practice, again, even on here, is continuing to do something that I created so many rules based on all the videos and all the things that I watched about when I should go live, how many times I should go live, how long I should go live, what I should say, how I should say it, how I should structure it. Should I read things like I just did, or should I have practiced that and scripted it and made it, cut it down? Should this only be 5 minutes and not 25 minutes? And that was just preventing me from doing the thing that I find great joy in, which is what I'm doing right now. And there are people who find great joy in consuming this the way that I do it. And there are other people who do not. Well, for the people who do not, there's thousands of other creators out there. I literally just got a stat today that there's 75,000 songs a day uploaded to Spotify. There's a lot of people creating. There's a lot of people sharing. There's a lot of people uploading. I just heard the guy from One Republic, whether you want to find this as positive or negative, but he writes 100 times more songs than he did 10 years ago and makes half as much money as he did 10 years ago. And he feels he's 10 times more talented than he was 10 years ago. So, entrepreneurship to me is something that's extremely rewarding in so many ways. And it has allowed me to travel the world. I've traveled more in a decade than some will in a lifetime. I've met incredible people. In the big picture, it has given me a lot of freedom. And at times there has been a lot of stress. I have a high tolerance for the level of risk and work and everything that I believe goes along with being an entrepreneur, and my wife has had to do all the inner work as well to have that similar levels of inner peace. I remember I could say we had 6 months of money, and she'd be like, "Don't tell me that." And there's been times in prior years where we've barely had any money, and even she provided some money from her savings. And she's like, "All right," and so it's been really incredible to see her transformation and her shift. But I really believe that at the core, we need to do what's best for our minds and our mental health. Sometimes that'll be getting a job for a little bit of time. Sometimes it'll be being an entrepreneur, but there's no right or wrong answer. And don't let anybody judge you for whatever it is that you want to do. You work too hard, people tell you slow down. You slow down, people tell you to work harder. There's always going to be somebody who's got an opinion of you. You're always going to be doing something wrong, something right. You should always be doing something different, something the same. So I'm just out here to continue to practice being a living embodiment for what I believe to be true for me, which is just to do what I want to do and live how I want to live. And that's one of the reasons I became an entrepreneur, so that I wouldn't be told what to do or what not to do. But I don't know what's important to you. So I had a guy I was telling today that I love the spontaneity and the fluidness of my schedule and an empty calendar and very lack of structure. And he's like, "Oh my God," because he loves that. But I'm not telling him he should live like me and I live a better life than he's living. For some people, that level of structure is important and it brings them great levels of inner peace. For me, having everything super structured does not give me inner peace. So I continue to create an environment that helps my inner peace. I do a lot of inner work, so it's not only the outer world that dictates that. I create a world in general that allows me to have that. But at the same time, it's not the economy and people and everything that's constantly dictating whether I'm happy or sad. Bank account's really going great. I'm happy. It's amazing. Bank account's not good. Oh my God, it's the end of the world, right? Economy's amazing. I'm amazing. Economy's not. I'm not. Like, I don't want to live a life like that, because you can't control all of that. All you can control is very little. But you can learn to have some control over your mind, so your mind does not control you. And it's a practice, and it takes time, it takes consistency, but it is possible. And then still everything will burn to the ground, and you'll have something crazy happen, and you'll have to, you know, get through it. But anyways, appreciate y'all, and happy to be on here. If you are catching this on somewhere where you can leave a comment, say hello. Let me know what you resonate with, what hits. Let me know if you have a question. I want these topics, these conversations to be directed by you as much as possible. And I don't take that lightly. While they're not, I have plenty to say, plenty of things I could bring up, plenty of things I'm sparked by in a lot of ways. But at the same time, I'd love to hear from you. So don't hesitate to reach out, send me a message. You can go to themindmechanic.net /Voxer. That's VOXER. If you want to connect with me and get a little test drive of what I do with my coaching, there's no pressure, no push. I just give people exactly that. And people get so much value out of that and help clear your headspace, and it's really great. I mean, a lot of my coaching is a lot of conversation as well. Some people just don't have anybody who gets them and understands them that they can talk about. And the act of releasing things in your mind that are bothering you to someone who's not going to judge you and shame you and push you and pressure you to do any particular thing. I'm only here to guide people to bring out of them what they absolutely want to do and what would bring them the most joy, and help find ways to reverse engineer that. So themindmechanic.net /Voxer. Reach out if you resonate with these messages. And if you have a topic of conversation you'd like to hear, leave a message. So rock and roll, my friends. Have an incredible day. Let me know in the comments. Are you an entrepreneur? Are you an employee? Have you been both? Are you going back to employment? What's that look like for you? I'd love to hear. So keep rocking, keep rolling. We'll talk soon. Take care.